This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience.
War Eagle Auburn fans, welcome to No Huddle, your source for Auburn football news and discussion, part of the E2C Network. I'm AJ Richardson, and I'm also here with my buddy, Jared Davis. Jared, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How about you?
Hanging in there, loving life, and it's fun when we start hearing some good off-season news. I was just thinking about the positions of need. Coming out of specifically, we watched A-Day. What comes to mind when you were thinking about positions of need for Auburn, right off the top of your head?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I obviously there's always a lot, but I would say probably receiver and quarterback. And yeah, I mean, I would say that we have addressed that here recently, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll even add on top of that, wide receivers. And it seems like we're starting to make a push for getting some out of the transfer portal. Now the transfer portal is completely closed. It was for the last week or two. Hey, players are in it, and we can evaluate, see if we really want any of those players. Sure enough, Auburn came in hot. It was pretty impressive. It seems like, particularly around quarterback position, because I think that gets most of our focus, and probably rightly so, because as a quarterback goes in the offense, so tends to also go your offense and ultimately your team. So getting a good quarterback is very important. And I think everybody could kind of gauge, especially as soon as TJ Finley announced that he was going to the transfer portal, like, a lot of us kind of expected after he'd graduated and became a grad transfer, that quarterback was going to be a key position of need. And Auburn went out there, got Michigan State quarterback Peyton Thorne, who's played a couple years at Michigan State, will be a grad transfer, has 2 years of eligibility left. That's a pretty dang good situation to be in. And how quickly Auburn seemed to move on that, and particularly it sounded like Hugh Freeze was right in the middle of all the recruiting for him to get him to come to Auburn. And it just gets me really excited. What's kind of your thought, and what did you think when Auburn announced that they got Peyton Thorne as their next quarterback for the quarterback room?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know anything about the guy. I have learned a little bit, as have most of everybody, since we grabbed him. There's a couple of things. I mean, I actually talked to a Michigan State grad here recently, and he said that 2021 season was amazing. Said last year he fell off. However, they came out at the end and said he was playing hurt. So if that was all year, But the cool stat is, and correct me if I'm wrong, AJ, I think in games where they rushed for 150 yards, he was 12-1. So you got to assume with Jarquez Hunter and the big boys we've brought in for the offensive line, I'm not saying we're going to do 150 just, guaranteed, but I expect us to, and look at how we ended last year. We didn't even have a passing attack, and we ran for like 300 and something yards in the Bama game. So
well, I had just recently gone back because I was curious last year, when we had to run the ball a lot more than we typically do. How many games did we have more than 150 yards? I think if I look back, it was 10 of the 12. So
yeah, I mean, we racked up ridiculous yards. I mean, we've already given praise to that group the last 4 games, but I mean the schemes they came up with, I mean they dominated on the ground. And I would have to say we've gotten better at O-line. I don't know there was a major drop-off at running back. I love Tank, but I don't know if there was a drop-off, but we lose that depth piece, right? I mean, having Jarquez as your number 2 is really nice. Now he's your number 1. But we also bring in the leading rusher from, I think, Conference USA or whatever, South Florida, the guy from South Florida, and he may not even be our second-string running back. So what does that say about, Damari Austin? I think that I already know where I'm going. Oh, you're talking about Thorne. Okay, so that was the main thing that I learned. Okay, I don't know much about him. He's kind of been labeled a game manager, but when you run for 150 yards, he has a great record. They went 11-2 his first year. They won the Peach Bowl. And I think Hugh came out today maybe and said that he is the most experienced transfer quarterback he's ever had. So that doesn't mean you're going to be great, right? But we could roll out. I mean, I've heard people say that they were predicting around probably 6 or 7 wins for us. Now that we have Thorne, they're predicting 9 to 10.
That's pretty steep. I don't know if I'm even there yet. I mean, maybe
I would not go
hyped.
10. I could see. I've looked at the schedule, right? Like if things fall right, like I don't think it's crazy to win 9 games. I wouldn't predict it, but that's not crazy.
Right.
It would be pretty crazy to win 10 games.
Yeah. Like I was thinking about this, think about when Bo Nix came in his first season 2019. He came in, beat Alabama his freshman year. And I think this is possible that somebody like Peyton Thorne first year come in and we beat Bama. I think it's possible. That's the kind of my mindset. Now, do I think we're going to have a 10-win season? I don't think so. I'm still kind of in that 8 to maybe tops 9-win season, but that's better than it was before. And I'm still not completely like putting out my hopes of the other quarterbacks, particularly Robbie Ashford, who pretty clearly was the front runner in the spring. And Robbie, if this is, even I loved his response. I think some people have already, talked about this, but this is, he said, let's work. Iron sharpens iron. And that's exactly kind of the mindset that I love to see out of a quarterback is, and any kind of competition. Like, hey, I want to become better. And Freeze has said, hey, let's bring in some competition here. So Peyton Thorne comes in here, good experience. Let's see what we can do. And if by chance, Robbie's the first one out there, to me that shows that Robbie has taken a ton of steps forward, considering he would have beaten out somebody who has 27 touchdowns in a single season. That is some crazy numbers. Like that was Kirk Cousins when he played at Michigan State. Like that, those are big numbers to just beat. And so I'm just saying that the whole kind of situation in my mind is a win-win. So excited to see what all the quarterbacks do, and especially in this summertime. Now Peyton Thorne's officially signed with Auburn. They can start doing some off-season summer workouts together once they enroll. It's going to be good, and excited to see what comes of it. All right, so besides quarterback, obviously we've picked up some other guys. Let's talk about a handful of them. So one of them, Caleb Burton, wide receiver from Ohio State. He's a former 4-star, and in his 2022 class, he was the 7th highest rated wide receiver in his class. So big name. I don't think he played at all. I think he just redshirted at Ohio State. But considering Ohio State wanted him, there's something there. And I feel like we could use any depth at wide receiver, just anybody at this point. So excited to see if we pick up any more. I would hope so, at least 1 or 2 more in the wide receiver room. We're going to need it. Another guy, Jaden Muskrat, offensive line. Offensive line, I think we could all just talk a lot about, just because how bad it was last year, how many new guys we've got this year. It's been night and day. And just seeing the spring game, you could tell. Obviously, they were doing a run attack in the 8A spring game. But, man, offensive line looks so good. So excited about it.
AJ, I saw a stat where we picked up 8 offensive linemen combined from 2020 to 2022. So 2020, 2021, 2022, 8 combined offensive linemen.
Yeah, so it's like 2 or 3 per year. Not that many in the grand scheme of things.
We have picked up 9 since Hugh Freeze signed his contract with Auburn, like 5 months ago.
What? He's averaging like 2 or 3 per month. We were averaging 2 or 3 per year.
Yeah, and not just. I think that other stat's even misleading, because I think we just kind of got some guys, right? We don't know what these guys, Hugh and them, have gotten, but a lot of them were like 1 and 2 at the position in the portal, right? Like these were the guys that everybody wanted.
Yeah.
I think we've only missed on one. I think we missed on we missed on two. We had a JUCO guy silently committed, and then he went to Colorado once and he committed there. But we missed on the guy that was going to be the center, who wound up committing to Nebraska because his parents are from there. But then we immediately jumped in. I think we got Avery Johnson or Jones or something. Who's probably better. Who's going to play center? So
he'll probably be our starter, more than likely.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's actually a better option than the other. He just wasn't available at the time. So I don't know that we've really missed. You know, and the O-line coach, I think, was the first outside coach he hired. And I think he has made that a top priority.
Yeah. I mean, he saw the need. And one of the things that's a little refreshing is how many times, us as Auburn fans, I mean, I'm not claiming to be as smart as a head football coach in the college world, but you just see glaring holes. Offensive line was a big one. And this has been so refreshing. Hey, what do we need? Offensive line. Let's go get 9 of them. Oh, we need a good quarterback. Okay, hey, we're going to go get one. Oh, we need some, more linebackers. Guess what? We just got Jalen McLeod, who's top 6 edge rusher in the country. Yeah, we can take that after losing Derek Hall and Eku Leota to the draft. And you're just like, that is the kind of just like clear vision that is so eye-opening, so refreshing. I feel like a new man after seeing all of this. There's so much more hope and excitement that I feel when I'm starting to see, oh, we got that. I was like, oh, man, that would be an awesome guy to grab. Sure enough, guess what? We got him. And I love that. I love that we're able to go and get the guys that we really need in the positions of need that we are going after. All right. So, those were just a handful of the guys so far we've gotten. I suspect, I don't know about you, Jared, but I suspect we'll probably get at least a handful more from the transfer portal. Just with, just like every transfer portal, there's lots of guys go in. It starts to kind of shift and settle out. We'll probably get some more guys. If you had to think of some more positions of need that you think we could add, what else kind of comes to mind for positions?
Not a lot of focus lately has been put on defense. I know we got some early on in the process. I think we got a guy from Kentucky, a guy from Maryland. We got a couple of guys. I don't know what the D line looks like. Linebacker. Those guys that came from Ole Miss and LSU, they don't have a ton of playing time. I feel like the defense might need a few more pieces. Especially with, Imba left. I don't know if we ever even mentioned that. Jeffrey Imba left. So, I mean, I think that's what we might need. From what everybody's saying, we are a strong candidate to get the wide receiver from Colorado, their leading wide receiver.
Yes.
Craig, I think is his name, last name, something. I think it's a hyphenated name. So, yeah, he torched their Colorado spring game, and then he's like, I'm out.
If it's a last name Craig, do you remember Nate Craig Myers?
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna go look him up. I can't remember off the top of my head,
no,
but I'm pretty sure it's not the same guy.
No, it ends with Craig, like the hyphenated. And Craig Myers, you gotta give him. He did have like a touchdown pass against Bama that year. We beat him, so I'll give him that. Or maybe he caught the pass from Kerryon Johnson. That's what it was. But that's about all he ever did at Auburn. I can't remember the guy's name from Colorado. But anyways, I mean, it's kind of died down so quiet. It's almost like a done deal. They're just waiting on the graphic. But yeah, he's supposed to be an Auburn commit. So that would be another wide receiver. But I don't know. You just hadn't heard a lot about defense lately. I think the secondary is pretty set. I think we have good first team D lineman. I think we need more depth, and then linebacker is just we don't know.
Yeah, I think linebackers is still a pretty big question mark in my mind. Obviously, during the A-Day game, the little bit of glimpse we saw into what this team looks like, linebacker. We were running the ball, and linebackers didn't do a whole lot to stop it. I don't know how much you can take from that though. It was a muddy, wet day again, but we know Owen Papo went to the NFL draft along with a lot of others. So let's actually shift over to that topic of NFL draft. We'll just briefly talk about that. That happened, a week and a half ago, something like that at this point. And first off the board, I feel like this is no surprise, Derek Hall. He was taken in the second round, 6th pick in that round to the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, we all knew just the beast of a man that Derek Hall was. What a great ambassador for Auburn University that he is and will continue to be. And, man, he's going to be an incredible edge rusher in the NFL. Jared, what's kind of your thoughts on Derek Hall, kind of his body size and what his ability is transitioning into the NFL?
Yeah, I think he could be a star. He could be the kind of like a D Ford that was so good with Kansas City. Yeah, he's got that like he can be very versatile. Can rush the passer, but can drop back and play linebacker.
Yeah.
And, he had an interception in a game last season. He was back there where a DB should be. So I mean, I felt like he was having to do too much because the team was lacking talent. So you put him on an NFL team where he can do, he didn't have to cover the whole field. He can specialize. I think that was probably not a steal because second round is still pretty high price, right? But I think that could be borderline steal there that what the Seattle got.
Yeah, absolutely. We also had not Derek. We already mentioned him. Tank Bigsby taken in the 3rd round to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know Clint Richardson is super excited. I'm excited just because he kind of stays in that southeast region. Jacksonville needed a good running back. Guess what? You got one. So really excited to see where he goes. Kind of in his NFL journey, just because there are, I'm just thinking about running backs. Running backs take a beating in the NFL, and Tank, he's a tough guy. He plays through a lot, and I think this is going to be a good test for him. And I fully expect him to thrive in the NFL, just with how hard he runs.
I don't know how good Jacksonville's line is, but do you think he'll panic if he gets a handoff and there's a lane?
Ooh.
He's like, what do I do with this? Wait, there's supposed to be an open lane for me?
Exactly. He's not expecting it. How many times did that happen at Auburn?
Yeah, he's going to be like juking Ghost out there in the backfield thinking there's somebody on him. They're like, bro, you got time. You got time. This is how we do it here.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be a good surprise for him because he probably hasn't had that since like high school probably.
No.
Also, we had Colby Wooden taken to the 4th round to Green Bay. Grew up kind of a Green Bay Packer, and always excited to see guys go to Green Bay. Colby Wooden, just another solid, well-rounded guy. He's going to be, I feel like, a good leadership role. Like he just has leadership, just like Derek Hall does, written all over him. So I'm sure he'll be a big impact at Green Bay. Owen Papo, our linebacker that we've had for the past 3 seasons, maybe 3. I think last 3 seasons, and he went to the Arizona Cardinals in the 5th round, and excited to see him play. Just he's always got obviously top level. What was he, a 5-star? Is that right? Or very high 4-star? Yeah,
he was a 5.
So I mean, just for him to get drafted, love it. I saw a crazy stat just what was it? Just a couple days ago, that 5 stars, 5-star players right out of high school, they look back at the players that are in this draft, and there were 8 5-stars that did not even get drafted. Wow. So that just kind of shows you, like, obviously stars do carry some significance, but it's what you do with it. And I'm glad to see Owen Papo getting drafted, put in that hard work. We also had Anders Carlson, which to me was a little bit of a shock. I mean, it's not very often that a kicker in the NFL gets drafted, and he got drafted in the 6th round. So that's a huge congrats to him. He also went to Green Bay. Love it for him. And I mean, I think it just puts a lot of weight that Green Bay felt, hey, this is a solid kicker. I I mean, how much do you think, like, obviously Daniel Carlson, his older brother, has had a lot of success in the NFL as a kicker. Do you think that kind of influenced maybe Green Bay to pick him versus, picking him up and as an undrafted free agent?
If you're asking me, does he get drafted if Daniel Carlson is not his brother? No, I don't think he does.
Hmm.
I think that I was surprised. And I'm happy for him, but I was super surprised. I think that I don't know that a GM would tell you that. They may not even know it. It may be a subconscious thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Daniel Carlson has just dominated the NFL the last 2 years.
Yeah.
His stats are just unbelievable about even game-winning field goals. So there's no way they don't look at. They're like, oh, that's his brother. Oh, they have the same genes. Okay, let's give it a shot.
Right. I mean, if I was them, and honestly, he was a pretty solid kicker for Auburn. I don't think he was nearly as good as Daniel, but he was solid. He could make a good 40-yarder. Now, I question some of the 50-plus yarders that the coaches would put him in those weird situations where I was just like, sure, can he kick it in a practice? Absolutely. But when you got 11 guys running at you trying to block the kick, it puts a lot more pressure on you. And so I feel like Anders at times was not set up for the most success that he possibly could have in college, which is pretty unfortunate because obviously he's very talented.
Well, we may be doing this again in a few years because, we got
Yeah.
McPherson and his brother's the Bengals kicker. So,
Yeah.
we
We probably will. In 3 years from now, we're gonna say, "Hey, we got Evan McPherson out here getting drafted," and probably at that point, his older brother's still gonna be in the NFL, and then we could say, "Hey, we got 3 Auburn kickers potentially in the NFL at the same time." Like, who does that?
Yeah, for sure.
We also had a few undrafted free agents, so I'll just briefly mention those. Eku Leota to the Panthers. Brandon Council, offensive line. He'll be a free agent at the Jets. Killian Zaire, also offensive lineman, Houston Texans. Shedrick Jackson, wide receiver, Cincinnati Bengals. And John Samuel Schinker, tight end, and I'm sure special teams because John Samuel can just literally do anything. He's going to the Raiders. So we got some, I think, 5 drafted and then 5 so far that are undrafted free agents. Pretty solid year. Not the best year either, but also considering the last few seasons, it's honestly amazing that we have this many people that are drafted or even just undrafted free agents. Just shows that we did have talent, and it just kind of sucks. Like when you see all of this talent go and you're like, where was this? Like, how can we not use this during the football season when it really mattered?
Mm-hmm.
That just hurts me. Man. All right. All right, Jared, any other kind of thoughts on, transfers, kind of how that's kind of shaken out now that we've seen that new window and now we have started to see some of these guys? What's kind of your thoughts on this? I think of it kind of as free agency in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was less chaotic this year. I'm still not I still think it needs to be tweaked. I want players to be able to leave, no doubt, but there needs to be, to build a solid team, you got to have some continuity. I think there needs to be a little more rules around it.
Especially, I feel like in college where the team aspect is pretty strong.
Like you can't and I get it. Okay, the people on the full side of the player is, well, the coaches can leave at any time. Why can't the players? I get that. Okay, but on the other side, it's like even in the NFL, you have a contract, so okay, I've got this guy for 4 more years.
Right.
So you don't in college. They literally can leave at any moment.
Yeah.
I mean, your starting quarterback can leave.
Yeah. They could leave mid-season if they really wanted.
And forget. You're like, well, I don't care about the coach. If they're like, well, forget the coach. You're hurting your other team members too, right? Like there just needs to be some more solid rules. I don't mind them getting paid. I don't mind them at least having one opportunity to leave. I do like, so there's the rule now. Like they can't. I don't think they can enter the portal anymore And even if they can, and if you enter after spring, you can't go to another team inside the SEC without
I
a special
appreciate
waiver.
that rule.
I like that. So, and I mean, we could have really benefited from getting it. It probably hurt us from trying to get a Georgia quarterback because they got 3 5-stars. But if those guys went into the portal after spring, realizing they're not going to be the guy, they can't go to another SEC school. So they probably said, "Well, I might as well just stay where I'm at."
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do like that rule, even if it hurts Auburn, because we probably could have gotten a few more players from the SEC. You gotta have some kind of structure in anything you do in life, and it was super chaotic last year. It's gotten a little better this year. It needs to get a little better incrementally every year.
Yeah. It does seem to get, as we're figuring this out, the first year was just chaos, it felt like. This feels like they're starting to hone in on what is the quote-unquote right way to do this, because this is obviously the way of the future with just how football teams are kind of constructed. And it's also, again, I keep thinking of the word refreshing, but how refreshing it is to see how Freeze has approached this transfer portal and how he analyzes, man, and just not just Freeze, but his whole coaching staff. Like, it's very obvious that he's got a very clear plan. We're not just throwing offers at people and hoping they come. We're very directed and focused on what we want. Last little topic before you get out of here. I want to talk about some rule changes that are coming to college football. Jared, I don't know if you saw these, but this is kind of like, baseball put the pitch clock to speed up games. College football is starting to implement some of those into college football. And this one will allow for the clock to essentially run pretty much all the time, even after first down. So, previously, after first down, the clock gets stopped until the first down chains are getting reset. And the only time that the clock's going to stop, more or less, besides timeouts and touchdowns, are going to be essentially at the 2-minute or less mark between each, after the second quarter or at the end of the second quarter or at the end of the game. So I personally like that. I feel like people always kind of gripe, oh, you got to wait like 3.5 hours for a football game or 4 hours, whatever it ends up being with commercials and stuff. I feel like it'll change it a little, but I don't know about you, but I feel like it will only change it maybe 10 minutes in a game, like make the whole game maybe 10 minutes shorter, which maybe that's good. But any thoughts on kind of that rule change to make the game play a little bit quicker?
I mean, from a standpoint, to me, in a perfect world, I'm like, well, just tell CBS not to do 8-minute commercials, right?
But that's how they make money.
They're not going to do it because that's how they make money. So, because of that, you got to tweak the game because you're not going to ever quit selling advertising. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it. I like I think it gives more comeback options in college because we're basically going to the pro style. It gives more ability to come back in college, which makes it a little more exciting because the clock stops at least to get up there to spike it and stuff. So, I'm not going to lose sleep over it, but I would have preferred not to do it.
Yeah. I'll mention one other one just real quick that looks like it's coming down to college football is, how coaches would do consecutive timeouts? So they would call one timeout.
Yes. I am a
and
fan
then
of this.
they could call another one directly after. I think that was just really stupid. Like,
yes.
To me, it's kind of like, I feel like coaches would do that to ice a kicker or a key play at the end of the game. And so you call a timeout, get your defense set. They come out in a different formation, call it another timeout. And then, to me, it's just just play the dang game. We came here to play football. We didn't come here to play chess back and forth.
I can't believe it took them this long to realize, we should probably not let you call 3 timeouts in a row. But you know what it's going to lead to? It's going to lead to Kiffin's just going to have his dudes fall down. They've used one timeout, and they're coming up to kick it again, and the opposing team, he's just going to have a guy fall down. So now we got an injury timeout.
He's going to give them the sign, pull the ear or something, fall down, do it. And then we're as fans, we're just going to get pissed that it's obviously not a real injury.
Yeah,
obviously, I don't
rule-
want to make fun of fake injuries, but like when they're obviously fake, your dude's standing there and then he just falls down. He's like, I got a calf cramp, and you're like, did you?
Well, the only reason I bring up Kiffin and Ole Miss is they either have the worst training department ever because it happened every game, right? If it's one game, okay, I can't tell if that's fake or not. When it's doing it every game, you're like,
yeah,
either get better conditioning or there's something going on here.
Yeah, and I feel like it's the latter.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Jared, before we get out of here, how can the people stay in touch with you?
You can just find me on Facebook under my name, Jared Davis.
And you can find me on Twitter at AJAY, JAY_. It's always great to be an Auburn Tiger, and War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the E2C Network. On your way out, I want to remind you to stop by e2cnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for all our content across our podcast, YouTube channel, and much more. To stay up to date with us, make sure you're following social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While our content here may always be Auburn sports heavy, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. War Eagle.